Hey guys, Paul here. So, one of the most annoying things in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is when a meta deck takes one of your favorite archetypes and basically co-opts part of its strategy for its own. This can be really annoying because maybe you were really into the archetype, maybe the archetype's really unique, it's got kind of a cool lore thing, or maybe you just like pure decks, and seeing, a top tier deck that doesn't really actually care about your strategy, just use a small part of it or something to reach their goals, maybe even to the extent of getting those cards banned, it's kind of annoying. I'm a fan of pure decks for the most part. I've got a line. Obviously, I play Lone Fire Blossom in a Rika deck, for instance, right? But yeah, here are some examples that I have of decks that kind of got co-opted by top tier decks, and it's really annoying. But yeah. So the first one is one of my absolute favorites, and that is the Rocket monsters, Rockets and their accompanying Boral monsters. So these were actually used in the anime by Revolver, I believe is the character's name. But I really, really love this archetype because, just to tell a bit of a story, when Link Monsters came out, I really didn't resonate with them very much. I didn't care very much for the World Chalice deck. I just thought it was kind of bland and boring, just a lot of normal monsters. But when they introduced rockets, I thought that was the coolest thing. I liked the aesthetic of kind of these dragons, but they're more like metallic in nature. You can see why I like Cyber Dragons, so obviously this kind of felt like an evolution of that. And I thought that the Boral monsters in particular were really, really cool. So the way that the rockets work is extremely unique, even among like unique archetypes. So basically, whenever a Link monster targets them for effects, they then respond with their own effect and self-destruct. They destroy themselves and then like take a piece of the opponent with them in some sense. It's supposed to sort of be like they are like being like loaded into a cannon and like shot out at the opponent. So when Borlo Dragon targets them to decrease their attack and defense by 500, they chain their effects, and you've got all kinds of really cool ones. There's like Magna Rocket Dragon that can just send a card to grave, doesn't target. You've got Metal Rocket Dragon, Shell Rocket Dragon that can like destroy stuff in columns, Auto Rocket Dragon that can like make a monster be unable to attack or use its effects. And even later on, they got Silver Rocket Dragon, which actually gets to banish a card from the opponent's extra deck. So I thought this was really cool, and the Boral monsters are designed, of course, to work with them. So they target the rockets, since your opponent probably wouldn't do that on their own, and your opponent cannot respond to the activation of Boral monsters' effects. So normally people just see this as like a really nice buff in general, which is true. It's nice that your opponent can't respond to them, but it's actually meant to allow you to directly chain your rocket monsters to Borals without causing any problems, so that way they can resolve properly. I think that this was really cool. So where did it go wrong? Well, in this case, I mean, yeah, people are always going to kind of take strategies and use them in other places, but I think that Konami actually sort of thematically went off, like kind of went off theme with the rockets. In two ways. The first is the Boral monsters are generic. Now, I totally get why. They were early Link monsters. It's probably better that they are generic, so any deck can make use of them, and then Rockets can maybe just make slightly better use of them or intended use of them. But yeah, I mean, early on, Borlo Dragon was just seen as a way to out troublesome monsters by taking them, and it also is just generally pretty good at being like, targeted by stuff. But later on, Boral Sword got even more crazy. It was just an OTK machine, really. It could finish games really quickly on its own. Boral Guard Dragon, at least, didn't never really see much competitive play, but within the Rocket deck, it's still pretty decent. And of course, there's Boral End Dragon. The second thing, though, is I think Rocket Launcher was or Rocket Tracer, sorry. Rocket Tracer was where this all went downhill. Because it really doesn't function like any of the other rocket monsters. It's a tuner first and foremost, and it can literally just destroy anything else and get a rocket from your deck. And I think that that is where the deck kind of turned into more of like just a part of Dragon Link, just a way to kind of summon, spam more monsters onto the field. And it kind of, I mean, at that point, your rockets aren't really doing the thing that they're supposed to do. Now, technically, you can take Rocket Tracer and use it to summon, say, a Magna Rocket Dragon, and that could help to funnel like some link plays and, get a monster on the field that can be used with the Boral. But, yeah, I mean, we all know it didn't really go that way, so it sort of sucks. I really think that the rockets are cool, and I think that this could have been largely avoided by just keeping them more in archetype, right? I think Rocket Tracer locking you into dark monsters for the turn, it makes sense. I think maybe locking you into dark dragons could have been a slightly more balanced addition to add there. And I think that making the Boral monsters require one rocket monster as material would have kept them from being just these completely generic kind of menaces. Either way, I mean, rockets are cool. Obviously, it's my favorite, so I'll always kind of be a little bit biased, but it kind of sucks. Okay, next one is Adventure Token. This is another really infamous one, I think. So the adventure token engine that most people know about involves just using Rite of Aramesir to get a token, get Fateful Adventure, use Fateful Adventure. You can like pitch cards and get either Water Enchantress or Wandering Griffin Rider or, whatever. And basically, yeah, the adventure token engine is meant to be a way to get free fodder for like link summons and stuff, a way to get Wandering Griffin Rider as a quick effect summon and pretty much free negation that you can use over and over. And I guess, you can use Draco back as well to bounce cards from your opponent's side of the field. So little people know this deck actually has like an entire set of mechanics behind it. There are 3 different equip spells that you can use. Draco back obviously does the bouncing, but there's also Starlit Papillon and Denel, the Noble Arms of Light. So these are supposed to power up your adventure token and also nerf your opponent's monsters as well, based on the amount of other adventure token cards you have. There's also other adventure token monsters that not many people really know about. I mean, Illegal Knight gets some play, and then there's the Magicor, the Knight. It's like 2300 attack. And so with the adventure token cards, they're also supposed to be able to special summon themselves, and then they can like use their effects. And as you guys know, with adventure token stuff, with like Rite of Aramesir and Fateful Adventure and all that, you're not really able to use the effects of monsters on the field unless they were special summoned. So it's supposed to kind of be a balancing thing where you can't use strong normal summon engines like, Alistair the Invoker. So it kind of works. But the main problem, of course, is just that the adventure token engine otherwise doesn't lock you really into any specific type of summons. So when this deck was really big, kind of back in 2022 now? Yeah, most of 2022, or at least early 2022. It was just kind of a way to amass some free advantage, get a negation on board for like dealing with Nibiru or something, or maybe a troublesome hand trap, and then just transition into your next engine. So it could be really useful in a lot of different pile decks. It was really strong in Praying Kids in particular. I remember that one being a good one. So yeah, this is another one of those decks that just people don't know about. It even has not equip spells, it even has field spells that make use of the equip spells. So like when you have specific ones, like I think with the Forest of Lost Flowers, it's supposed to work with Starlit Papillon. So now when your adventure token monster destroys a monster by battle, you get to draw a card. It's very, like, there's definitely a thing going on here, and admittedly the deck is kind of clunky on its own. It's a little bit awkward to use. It requires a lot of different spells and traps to like be up on the field, so they're all kind of susceptible to removal and stuff like that. But I still think it's a unique deck that not a lot of people really know about. Those are my 2 really big examples. I've got a couple of other quick honorable mentions, I guess you could say. The first one being Dangers. So Dangers, you guys know how that goes. You reveal a danger, and then your opponent has to guess what danger is in, like, they have to make you discard a card. And if it's the danger that got discarded, then it'll get some effect from being discarded. If it's not the danger, then the danger will get to summon itself. You'll discard the other card. It'll draw a card. You guys know how dangers work. But yeah, the thing with dangers is it's supposed to kind of be its own thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I totally see how it could just be read as, okay, these are just monsters that can hit the field and be like link fodder, right? And that's pretty much how they get used. Link fodder, they're dark monsters, that never hurts. But, dangers were supposed to be more of just a beatdown strategy. By discarding them, you could use their own other spell or trap effects, and most of their spell and traps just involve increasing their attack points or letting them attack multiple times. I think that it really captured the whole cryptid thing well, because it's like the danger peeks out at you, but now you have to try to find it. It's sort of like, seeing if Bigfoot really exists. I think they're totally well designed, and I'll give them some credit. Beatdown decks of that nature aren't super usable in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! I think it could be fun, but it always seemed like something that was supposed to be combined maybe with Dark World or maybe with Fabled. I think it actually saw more use just being combined with things like Phantom Knights and Orchists. So those are definitely other more top-tier strategies, at least at their times. But yeah, so Danger is definitely cool. One other spotlight of the deck is that they had Danger Zone, which was like literally a more beneficial Graceful Charity. But it was a trap, so it was slow. Traps are in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! So, yeah, that's kind of an honorable mention. Some other really quick ones would probably be the Ishizu cards for obvious reasons. They got heavily abused by tier, and by and large, just kind of hit and slaughtered and slashed on ban lists. Well, if you play Master Duel in particular. But yeah, not many people really play the Ishizu cards to actually use Exchange of the Spirit and all of that stuff. Bit of a shame. I had some other ones here. The Synchron decks. Those rarely are actually synchrons. Most people just abuse like Assault Synchron or Revolution Synchron. But it's not as bad because like each synchron kind of seems like it's designed at a different time for a different purpose. So maybe not as bad. And then one that I've seen recently on Master Duel is Instant Contact in Kashtira, just being used to grab a free level 7 monster and extend with it. But that's not really co-opting an entire type, it's just like a single card, so not that bad. Anyway, yeah, those are some Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks that I think are kind of just, they're cool, they're unique, and a lot of people don't really know fully about them. There are plenty of other examples, so let me know down in the comments, what are your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks, or just one of them that got kind of taken away by the metagame and it's better used in a top tier strategy, and maybe even ended up having some of its cards banned or limited as a result, because that's always fun. Alright, yeah, it's gonna be it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Pass turn.